Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7 by 7. So let's jump right to the heart of the matter here. The thing that we all know, or at least the story that we know from Legends, is that Han Solo was in the employ of the Empire when he saw Wookiees being mistreated and enslaved, and he freed Chewbacca from slavery, and that's how Chewie ended up with his life debt to Han Solo. So that story, that general framework, seems to be intact as we exist in the new canon right now, and we're going to see it fleshed out in Solo: A Star Wars Story. The thing that we had been thinking about from the footage that we've seen so far suggested that on Mimban, which is the mud planet, if you will, that Han Solo is going to be in the employ of the Empire there, it seems, and that's where there are a bunch of Wookiees being worked to death, probably. Ugh. And that seems to be where Chewbacca is, and that's where the two of them are going to meet, and presumably where Han is going to free Chewie from slavery. Now, the toys that were released, the photos that were released, at least of the toys, and that were shown on StarWars.com, seem to emphasize this point. And one of them is actually a rather surprising one. It's one of the Funko ones, and also there are action figure ones that suggest this too, but the Funko one has the two of them together, Chewie and Han, and chained at the ankles. So Chewie is muddy, and Han is dressed in mud trooper attire, but you can see his face. And they each have an ankle cuff, and the chain that's on the ankle cuff is connected to each other. So is Han going to get bounced out of the Empire and be told, oh, you like these Wookiees? Well, here, you can work with them, and chained up to them? That is rather surprising. But the thing of it is, it's not the whole story, or at least that's what we're given to believe, based on the copy that surrounds an Imperial TIE fighter made by the fine folks at LEGO. So let me read this to you. The copy says, help Han Solo and Tobias Beckett evade the Imperial TIE fighter. Can you make it past the stormtrooper and escape before the TIE fighter pilot fires the powerful shooters? You decide. And the photo has a Lego Han Solo, and he is dressed in mud trooper attire, but it also has a Tobias Beckett figure, and he is dressed in Imperial officer attire. And lest there be any confusion, there are little tiny dirt marks on the Lego figure, which suggests that he is an officer stationed on Mimban. And so this opens up the question of whether this is actually when Han is in the employ of the Empire, or is he on a job with Tobias Beckett in this particular instance. And so the whole voiceover line that we get in the second in the second bit of footage, which would be the teaser that debuted after the Super Bowl, not during the Super Bowl. That bit of voiceover dialogue where he says, I was kicked out of the academy for having a mind of my own. So maybe he was bounced out of the Empire before he actually encountered Chewbacca. And I suppose there's another alternate theory. There is the possibility that Chewie and Han were captured in some, thing that went wrong, and they were sent to Mimban as slaves to work wherever in the mud and have that whole awful thing, and that Tobias and his crew decide to come rescue him, or at the behest of somebody else they do. But that seems like stretching it a little bit. So I like the fact that we've introduced a bit of uncertainty to this whole situation, because that's part and parcel of the whole Star Wars thing. Like, as information gets out and is released about the things that we're going to be seeing in the movie, it sort of starts to fill in the gaps and makes it so that, maybe some things aren't as much of a surprise as others. And sure, it's possible to try and shut yourself out from these things, but in this particular day and age, not so much. So I like the fact that we have a bit of uncertainty introduced into this whole equation. Oh, and there's one other little detail that I don't know if it means anything or not, but Han Solo has a red bandana of some sort, or a red band around his right arm. It doesn't look like a bandage thing, but I guess it could be, since it's a Funko thing. Like, maybe that's how they stylize a bandage around his upper right arm or something like that. Or maybe it has some sort of meaning, like this guy's in trouble or something like that. So we'll see. There were a couple other reveals as a result of these toy releases. First of all, that there's a new Imperial Patrol Trooper. That looks kind of interesting. And we also get better looks at the Range Trooper and the Mud Troopers. And I had a sensation that You know, there's that one scene that happens very quickly in the Super Bowl commercial where you see somebody who has a bit of a cloak on and is turning very quickly and shooting blasters. And, you know, that's Mud Trooper attire because we see a Mud Trooper with a cape like that on. And you have to wonder if that's Han in a Mud Trooper uniform and with some sort of cloak on. But be that as it may. There's also reference to an Imperial AT hauler, an Imperial all-terrain hauler that shows up in one of those little crash and battle things. And so we don't necessarily know what it really looks like because it's stylized and cartoon shaped. There's also the Corellian Hound. We get to see what a fierce dog looking thing looks like on Corellia, white and scary and flat faced and ugly. So yeah, that's not going to be cool. And fighting droids. There's a pair of fighting droids, and we don't know where we're going to see those fighting droids. I mean, Corellia seems to be a likely bet, maybe whatever that deserty planet is where we see Enfys Nest, you know, the very scary masked person. And, you know, who knows? It could be on Kessel too. I mean, I'm sure they're not lacking for entertainment on Kessel. They've got droids that they can set to fight each other. And that is pretty much the meat of the reveals that we got from the toy reveals from StarWars.com. And thus, that's going to be the meat of this podcast and all for the video. But on iTunes at sw7x7.com/iTunes or wherever you like to listen to podcasts, I'm going to do one last thing, which is a bit of a request for the upcoming Safe Week. And so we'll talk about that over there. But in the meantime, it just remains for me to say thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.